California. But they stayed so far off the coast, none had ever come close enough to see the entrance to the harbor. The first ship that actually entered San Francisco Bay was called the San Carlos, a little 80-foot long packet boat. Lieutenant Juan Manuel de Ayala in command, piloted the little boat through the straits, heavy, treacherous, rocky strait, off what's now Angel Island, and spent the next 8 weeks touring the bay.
After that trip, a year later, March 1777, Francisco grabbed a pick and shovel and headed for the hill. The editor of a local newspaper wrote in its editorial, "Stores closed and places of business. This curse had arrested our onward course of enterprise. Life in San Francisco at the heart of the
in all of justice.
The War Department in Washington, D.C. objected by claiming that it would be a serious hand in government navigation. Despite the protests, there were many people who wanted the bridge. First among his orders was the engineer, Joseph Barron Sturm. He designed the bridge.
Actually, delicate objects of Art Deco art that were created, and the scale was just immense. The towers were 700 feet in height, the main span 4,200 feet long. No one had ever built a bridge like this before. Some people say you can never build it again.
Look at the tower at the San Francisco end of the bridge. There, down, the concrete foundation the tower is standing on. This was the first great challenge, building a concrete pier in water more than 100 feet deep. Enormous temporary walls were built, enclosing an area in the bay the size of a football field. The water was pumped out, and then the concrete was poured. Next came the two towers. When they were completed, thousands of steel strands were bundled together to form the enormous main cable that connect them. Finally, the road itself was built, starting at both ends and working toward the middle to keep the bridge in balance. It's easy to describe. It was far from easy to accomplish. Imagine working there, day after day, in the cold, in the fog, and the rain. On major construction projects in those days, experience had shown that one workman usually died for every $1 million spent. The budget for the bridge was $35 million, but Joseph Strauss was determined that 35 lives would not be lost on his bridge. A safety net was fabricated and suspended below the workmen, and although 11 men did die during construction, 19 men fell into the safety net and were saved. Those 19 lucky men formed a very special club. It's called the Halfway to Hell Club. Of the 11 men who lost their lives during construction, 10 of them died in one accident when a 10-ton scaffold fell and tore through the net. The Golden Gate Bridge was completed in less than 5 years in May 1937. Joseph Strauss let the world know exactly how he felt.
The Golden Gate Bridge, the bridge which could not and should not be built, which the War Department would not permit, which the rocky foundation of the pier base would not support, which would have no traffic to justify it, which would ruin the beauty of the Golden Gate, stands before you in all its majestic splendor, in complete refutation of every attack made upon it.
Look up at the Twin Towers. They rise nearly 750 feet above the water. Let your eyes follow the bridge from shore to shore. The roadway extends for 1.25 miles without touching down on solid ground. Look at the two main cables. There's enough wire there to wrap around the planet 3 times. Each strand in the cables is secured to steel reinforcements in a 50,000-ton foundation buried deep underground. Impressive numbers, but numbers alone can't tell the story of the Golden Gate Bridge. There's more to it than steel and concrete. For many, it has become a symbol of America's hope, as inspiring and recognizable as the Statue of Liberty.
When you're standing on that deck, you can feel it vibrate. You can feel it sway back and forth in the wind. The entire bridge hums like a harpsichord, like and it makes you feel very small, and standing looking up at those huge towers and listening to the whole thing moaning in the wind, it's awe-inspiring.
That name, by the way, came long before the bridge. John C. Fremont, a soldier, explorer, and adventurer, named the entrance to San Francisco Bay the Golden Gate back in 1846. That was even before gold was discovered in California. Look to the north end of the Golden Gate Bridge, the side opposite San Francisco, and you'll see a rocky point with a building on it, just below the bridge. That's Line Point, the other side of the Golden Gate entrance, along with Fort Point. Look again at the hills to the left of Line Point, the Marin Headlands. Spend an afternoon on the hiking trails there, and you might see deer or even bobcats. Climb to the top of Hawk Hill any time of the year, and you'll have a glorious view of the Golden Gate. Visit in October, and you'll see magnificent birds of prey. Every fall, more than 100,000 hawks, eagles, and falcons soar overhead on their migration south. Now, let's all take a moment to enjoy this magnificent panorama. If the sun is out, you'll see sails docking the bay. In addition to its perfect place for a fort to defend the bay from invaders, but this cold and windy rock was such an unpleasant place that they changed their minds. It was now the perfect place for a military prison, and eventually a federal penitentiary. It was a time when gangsters were becoming heroes to people. The government needed to send a message that crime did not pay, so they created Alcatraz, the very last stop in the country's prison system, the place to send the worst criminals of all.
Yeah, my name is Leon Whitey Thompson. My number was 1465, AZ 1465.
Listen carefully now. You're about to hear from former inmates, guards, and residents of The Rock to tell you their stories themselves.
All right, folks, we got some more swells here. I'm going to turn left into them and get over behind the island. Until then, please, again, use extra caution as we're turning in the swells. Thank you.
Walk to crawl on this earth. And when you got a man like that in prison, you...
Notice the circular water tower. Alcatraz is surrounded by water, but on the island itself, not a drop. Fresh water had to come from San Francisco, and not by any pipeline. 2 or 3 times a week, a barge arrived, full of 180,000 gallons of fresh water. It was pumped up into that tank. The tall smokestack marks the Alcatraz powerhouse. One thing that couldn't be brought out here by boat was electricity, so they made their own. One young man was only 21 years old when he first climbed onto the rock. His name was Frank Heaney, and he was a guard. In fact, the youngest guard ever to serve on Alcatraz.
I had a very difficult time. They really took advantage of my age. The old saying that misery loves company, they're very miserable, so they like to make you miserable too. They had no tailor-made cigarettes, they had no candy bars, chewing gum, soft drinks, radios, television, newspapers, rolls, or rehabilitation programs. They had none of that by being sent to Alcatraz.
Men sent to Alcatraz considered themselves the elite among convicts.
But on the rock, I'm not trying to put a feather in my hat or nothing, but they had a lot of class.
You could say they were a higher caliber of criminal. They were more or less professionals, people who robbed mail trucks and banks and so forth. Some were in for murder. They were a cut above average, the average criminal.
Robert Strout, the Birdman, Al Capone, Mickey Cohen, Frankie Garbo, Machine Gun Kelly. They're just another stupid fool like I was.
Plants. There wasn't any dirt for them to grow in. Soil had to be imported here from Angel Island before anything bloomed on the rock. For your musical edification, the all-inmate orchestra, Alcatraz's own The Rock Islanders.
They set up in the corner and they would play their music and serenade the inmates while they were having their Christmas luncheon. They had the trumpet and clarinet and drums and saxophone. Oh God, they butchered everything up. They were amateurs, but they tried.
In the 3 decades it operated, 1,500 inmates served time at the federal penitentiary at Alcatraz. And they never left. If you look closely in the water, you might see their shiny black heads in the waves. Over the years, the group has swelled to over 700 sea lions. Visitors to the pier can get a close-up personal view of the sea lions year-round. We'll be sailing right past them as we come into port. Have your cameras ready. Sea lions are not the only source of entertainment. The Aquarium of the Bay, located on Pier 39, gives you an up-close look at the marine life that inhabits our waters. A non-profit aquarium dedicated to conservation and education, the Aquarium of the Bay is home to over 20,000 aquatic animals, including manta-rays, octopuses, and the Bay's largest predator, the seven-gill shark. Christopher Bear Tunnel, known as the visitors to go with our didn't keep desperate men from trying. 36 of them in all.
You cannot take away from a man the thought that he wants his freedom.
I could see out the window at nighttime, and you could see kind of by the Berkeley coastline there, and you could see all the lights over there.
There's life. There's everything I want in my life, and it's there. It's a mile or